what do you hope to achieve now by going to Princeton, and what's your vision for the play?
Well, no hesitation. The play needs to carry on. As far as I'm concerned, this is a vitally important piece of theater. Everything comes back to the words. It's a verbatim play, and all that matters are these words, these people's true words. You went and you interviewed all of these people, and you listened to endless hours of transcripts, and you cultivated them until you had a play.
Hello, my name is Phil McAleer, and welcome to the Ann Film Scoop.
My name is Anne McElhenney. Welcome to the Ann Film Scoop. I'm back after quite a hiatus, by the way. Yeah.
Was that a disease?
Yes, it's a very funny film. Probably had COVID. Maybe had COVID. And then what else happened? Oh yeah, then we had of course we had the Labour Day and all of that.
Labour Day, busiest day of the year.
Busiest day of the year. But we're back with a huge amount of breaking news on this podcast today.
Well, first breaking news is we're having a heat wave here in California.
Yes, so excuse our sweaty faces.
Yes, we're spending some quality time on the beach.
We are. Been a while actually.
Look at us, beach bodies, beach girl summer.
Move on. Yes, our huge breaking news.
Yes,
huge breaking news.
Sorry,
we have.
Our campus tour is starting. The campus tour of October 7, the play it's coming to Princeton and UCLA. We're going to be announcing the dates. We're going to tell you all about it. Already, of course, the haters are out in force, bad grammar and all, which raises the question, why do university protesters have such bad grammar? Aren't they supposed to be educated or something? And we also break down, it's kind of connected, we break down why there's been this explosion of anti-Jewish protests and what we think the Jewish people can do about it. And
Hunter Biden film. Hunter Biden's back in the news and back in our town, by the way.
Hunter darling.
What's happened, Phil? What's he done?
He's pled guilty to tax fraud.
Look at us.
And,
look at us after making a movie saying things about him.
Yes.
It turns out we might have been right.
Yes.
Shocking.
Yes.
Shocking.
Shocker. It's getting more like a documentary every day. And we have a wonderful, crazy California story. We're going to have a regular piece. Let's play a little bit of music. We even got a little crazy California piece of music. When you hear this music,
you're going to know
that
we have one of our crazy California stories.
Actually, when you hear this music, it's Hollywood madness stories. And when you hear this music, it's media malfeasance stories.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. Okay, well, we have a crazy California story. Sacramento solved, just amazing, fabulous news. Sacramento solved its homelessness crisis.
Until a not-for-profit decided that they didn't want that to happen. And by the way, Sacramento solved the homeless crisis that they created. But,
yes, and by the way, it's very, very important, yes, that these homeless crisis NGOs don't put themselves out of business. Very, very important.
The homeless industrial complex
must continue because people are earning a lot of money and nice jobs. Why would you want? The last thing that you would need to do is to make yourself unemployed.
And they get interviewed in NPR and anyway. These are teasers.
Let's move on. No, because really the really big news is that our fall campus tour is kicking off in very, very short order in Princeton, first of all, and then moving on to UCLA. And we're very, very excited to be making this announcement. And, not that these two campuses weren't in the news in the recent past.
Well, we're really glad to be going there. Princeton's the first stop. We're going to do a stage reading of the play on September 24th. Then we're going to be in Los Angeles and UCLA on October 7th.
First anniversary.
Yeah, we'll put up an article there to show that, a big write-up in the LA Times. Princeton had 3 weeks of encampments. Princeton's now under investigation by the Department of Education, by the Biden Department of Education.
For racism.
For anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
And UCLA, well, it was just a complete mess. There was massive Jew hatred, massive encampments. And then...
Yeah, Jewish people were excluded from campus.
That's
right.
It
was extraordinary.
And then, remember that night, they all came late at night and fought back. Obviously, we wouldn't encourage violence in any way at all. But let's watch some of those pictures there.
Pushing, scuffles, and tension.
My other grandfather got kicked out of Libya. What's the final solution?
As pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian protesters face off with dueling rallies at UCLA. We saw demonstrators trying to drown out each other's message. Some were treated for pepper spray, and for most of the afternoon, officers stayed away, allowing protesters to police themselves.
Just, it's terrible, isn't it, that they would go and attack the people who were encamping there. Yes, terrible. But so it was it was actually the scene of bloody conflict and terrible. It was a cold place for Jewish people. So we're really glad to be going to UCLA. We're really glad to be going to Princeton.
And when you think, about places like Los Angeles, which outside of Israel, if you think about the places in the world with the largest Jewish populations, LA is right up there. Like, it's right up there. I would say potentially, and you can all correct me, but I would imagine New York probably is number one, and I would say Los Angeles is probably number two in terms of Jewish populations. So for this to have happened here, it's really, really shocking. By the way, we should listen. Our very good friend John Andrasik, by the way, who wrote a song for us for the movie Gosnell, and who is just wonderful, and is an alum of UCLA. Let's play a little bit of. I mean, he was really disgusted about what happened, and he's made a number of speeches about what happened at UCLA. Let's play a little bit of him speaking about that.
I am ashamed of what's happening across the street. I have one question. One simple question for Gene Block, for the board, for the administrators, and for the faculty of our school. And the question is this: if a barbaric terrorist group drove motorcycles, built hang gliders, and crossed the border and massacred 1,200 Muslims, raped Muslim women and killed them at a concert for peace, beheaded Muslim babies, tortured Muslim children in front of their parents, killed them, filmed it, and uploaded it to Facebook for their families and the world to see. And then that group took over 200 Muslim hostages, children, babies, grandmothers, and as we would speak, still would have over 100 Muslim hostages, including 5 Muslim Americans. And then a group of students, egged on by faculty at UCLA, formed an encampment to celebrate that group, that terrorist group. Those atrocities took over Royce Hall and started blocking Muslim students from moving across campus, started attacking Muslim students and sending them to the hospital, started creating checkpoints with wristbands and asking students, "Are you Muslim?" And if they said yes, denied them entry into their spaces. Would you tolerate that, Gene Block?
Yeah, so, people like him, I mean, and he's not alone, by the way. There were a lot of people who felt the same way. But it's interesting with our announcement, Phil, and we've had a little bit of...
Well, no, we should remind people of what the play is about, Michael Hinney. So we went to Israel after October 7th. We went there in November, and we interviewed maybe 20 people. We boiled down to the stories of 14 survivors of the October 7th attack in Israel. And it's young, old, secular, non-secular, ultra-religious, non-religious, young party-goers, Shabbat keepers, half Shabbat keepers. I don't know if that's a thing.
Yes.
I'm not religious, but spiritual, whatever the Israeli, whatever the Israeli equivalent of that is. People in the kibbutzes, young people in the kibbutzes, old people, 16-year-olds, 16 to 80-year-olds, people who lost grandchildren, people who lost sons, and a hero, and we're going to actually hear. It's funny, interesting. That's going to be later on in the show. We're going to be interviewing actually the actor who played Zaki, who's one of who really is our big hero in the play, who's this wonderful man from Patish, who saved almost 100 young people by driving back and forth into the Nova Party. Let's just play a little clip the play that we recorded from LA, no, from New York, from the New York run, which was a 6 to 7 week New York run, hugely successful. Let's play a little clip and a little bit of audience reaction to that clip. Now, the events in UCLA, these actors will not be in UCLA, unfortunately, or in Princeton. I mean, they were amazing. But let's just give you a taste of what is going to be on stage and what the audience in New York thought about it.
Lolly helped me navigate.
Okay, turn right. No, don't go over there. There's birds flying from the trees. They're shooting people over there. Okay, go between there. Take a left here. Go.
There were 3 of us in the car. My friend Gilad was in the back. Lolly, my girlfriend, God, she was so calm. She was in the front with me, and I'm driving. These Hamas vehicles, they're barreling right towards us, guns and everything. Lolly was hiding. And this one guy on a motorcycle, this terrorist, he was so close. I was staring him right in the eyes, and him back at me. And I nod to him like we know each other, like we're together. And he nods back at me, like you're okay. And then he sees my girlfriend, he starts shouting in Arabic, shoot the Jews, kill, kill the Jews, slaughter the Jews. I take a big left. 1 bullet hits the back door. Gilad starts yelling.
Fuck, I got shot in the head.
Don't worry, I'll get us out of here. My girlfriend starts to pray.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai.
The guy on the motorcycle, he tries to shoot again, so I swerve into him. He flies off of his bike 2 meters into the air, into the fields. And then another. So I just turn into him, I just catch him with the back of my car, and he flies off. I swear, if I had had a camera attached to the car, I could have sold the footage to Spielberg himself. I did what I did, my girlfriend said the prayer, and then I did what I did. It's not even about the prayer, it's about what I had to do.
It was incredible. It told the story most appropriately in such an intense, emotional way. I also, after walking out of the show, I found out that the producer and director was not Jewish. And I found that incredibly profound, that someone who did not necessarily experience personal suffering from this tragedy was standing up for this injustice that's happening. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you come from, but that when you see something that is inherently wrong and cruel, and you have these actors, and it doesn't matter what their background is, but they understand what they're saying. And they're saying a clear and powerful message. And they're expressing to the world what happened. And the truth speaks for itself. And I'm just so grateful for all of those supporting Israel. Because we really have to stand together now. We have to speak for the truth.
The only comparable experience I've had in my life was visiting Auschwitz and other concentration camps in Poland. And to me, just hearing the stories and listening and being there to bear witness is the most important thing, and the way that we can sort of keep their memory alive and remember the atrocities of that day so that it'll never happen again. Extremely emotional to hear their voices and their stories told in their own words and not distorted the way that the world has done so over the last 7 months.
I'm still a bit moved by this verbatim play with all of the testimony from survivors of October 7th. And I think everyone should see this. I specifically think the people in my class at Columbia should come and see this.
There's an opening in the leaves that cast a ray of sunshine on me. The glitter on my face and jewelry catches the light, and I think it's really dangerous, so I start removing all my jewelry. I have a necklace, and on it is written, Vishmarak, the blessing of the priest Yevarak, Adonai Vishmarak. The Lord will save you and will guard you. I'm not a religious person, but I really felt that I needed that protection. So I held it tight, and I started to pray. And suddenly I saw a bird flying. And the bird flew and landed on a branch close to my hand. And I don't know how to explain it or to describe the feeling, but I really felt that my grandfather of blessed memory was with me. When I got home later that night and told my mom, she told me the date my grandfather died, October 7th, 2016.
We began to ask ourselves, how are we getting out of here? What do we need? Everything is still chaos. There's still a lot of gunfire all around us. Uli climbs into the car to get his phone so he can call for rescue. He calls the cops. They don't answer. He calls an ambulance. They tell us they're not coming. Next, Uli calls his family, tells them everything. Bar is dead. I've been shot. He's coming home. Pray for me. Then he asks me if there's somebody that I wanted to call, and the first person that I could think of was this girl.
That's not a good idea.
Dude, she's the love of my life, and she doesn't know, okay? I've loved this girl my whole life. I never told her.
This is not a good time. If you tell her you love her, you'll give up.
What?
If you will have done everything, and you won't need to, like, survive.
Yeah, I started to call.
Don't do it!
Okay. And I didn't, and it was the right move to make. Just the thought that if something were to have happened to me, and the last thing that this girl heard was, but they're still shooting at us, and we can hear them executing people all around us, taking hostages. They lit a car on fire, and the fire spread to the car behind it where people were hiding. So whenever somebody would come out, somebody else would just start shooting. And then they would come, motorcycles, ATVs, pickup trucks, finish the job, and this was every couple of minutes, every 2 or 3 minutes, we saw them.
Yeah, so we're really happy to be bringing this to Princeton and UCLA. But, of course, the haters are out in force. When it went into the LA Times, it immediately attracted some pretty heavy Twitter action and some pretty heavy writing to the Board of Management Committee. So there's a lady there called Sana Seed.
She's some kind of out of work media critic.
Yes.
And she posted to the LA Times article. She posted the LA Times article onto Twitter, right?
Yes.
About the UCLA performance.
And got a lot of reaction. I think she got something like 900 retweets, like really major stuff. So this is her thought. Critical to any propaganda and the rewriting history is the creation of cultural history. Expect a lot of this in a country where Israelis,
white, Jewish,
yes, Zionists, white Jewish Zionists, yeah, have been allowed to create a cultural history of their claims, tragedies, victories, and three-dimensional selves at the fatal expense of Palestinians/Muslims and Arabs. And then one of my favorite Backspace episodes.
This is continuing her tweet.
Was on this subject. It's critical to look at U.S.-Israel relations beyond lobby and foreign policy narratives, which are critical but don't tell the whole story. But then, as the world of Twitter pointed out, and this is why Twitter is such a wonderful thing, the inconvenient fact that kind of destroyed her narrative. Her narrative was, look at those evil Jews using propaganda to rewrite the story of October 7th. They pointed out that the people who've actually written the October 7th play are us, who are Irish.
Catholics.
Yes. I think we're white. That's about the only thing.
She really got she got the white right.
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Although after the beach, I'm a little bit red.
Yeah, we're a little bit,
some
coloured.
Yes.
Little bit people of coloured.
Yes.
People of tanned.
People of red, I think.
People of red.
I'm more.
People of burnt.
Anyway, after a quick regroup, she then tweeted again, didn't let the truth get in the way of her narrative. Now, she was
and here's what she said. A few people have pointed out that the writer of this play isn't Jewish, but Irish. Cultural history doesn't need to be written and made solely by the group in question. She quickly segues. As you see, it's about specifically how their narrative is the dominant exclusive one, to the point where out groups will also engage in creating that cultural history and repeating those claims. Watch the episode above, which breaks this down, she says.
She's calling us an out group.
She said, oh, Phelim, are we in an out group? I like that.
I kind of like.
I kind of think.
I might put it in my Twitter bio.
I don't want to be in an in group. I want to be in an out group. It's kind of more. It's sort of edgy,
Yes, we're in with the out group.
And by the way, so that tweet from this woman Sana, by the way, got a lot of love. By the way, so 8,700 people liked what she said.
Wow.
1,000 people marked it. Do you see that,
yes,
Phelim?
2,500 people retweeted it, and 358 comments. And then
the thread kind of took off then.
Yes, yeah. But then a guy called Mike Dickerson.
By the way, I immediately looked at Mr. Dickerson's Twitter bio, and of course, Mr. Dickerson has his pronouns in his bio. He's a they, them, or what is he? No, he's a he, him. He's a he, him, his, which I could have guessed that, by the way. I'd have nearly guessed that he was a boy.
Well, just to give you some background here, because we believe in full transparency, Mr. Dickerson has written to the organisers of the UCLA event. Has written a lengthy letter, which starts off with, by the way, the letter is it was sent to the organisers, and it's a private letter. He hasn't made all of it public yet, so we're not going to read
the whole thing.
But he's posted some of it on Twitter, but some great parts of it where he starts off in short. Right, and it's the longest letter.
Goes on and on and on and on and on.
And in short colon as opposed to in short comma, by the way. Right, just to be clear, Mr. Dickerson.
And the other thing he does, which we kind of picked up on because we're those kind of people, is he talked about they're going to do this, and he spelt it.
No, it's their play, right?
Their play.
And
TH.
No, hold on. People often get confused between THERE and THEIR, and it's a big Twitter thing, right? Oh, it's their THERE.
Not if you're a lawyer.
He's a law student, class of 2025,
in an Ivy League school, by the way.
But it's the first time I've seen people get this confused. He wrote their play as in THEY, comma RE. I've never. Yeah. God, he needs to spend more time with them books rather than writing lengthy, in short emails.
Yes.
Right. So anyway, he tweeted this. This play is written by a couple who make documentaries about why global warming is fake.
Fracking is good, and abortion is murder.
Yes.
And this is what he continues to say. Hilarious and sad that my campus is hosting this nonsense.
So
don't have anyone hosted who has a different opinion than me.
Yes.
Okay. By the way, this is one of the things that's kind of fun about this is that basically Mike Dickerson has spent enormous amount of time going through all our podcast episodes. Thank you, Mike, for being a good watcher,
a loyal listener.
listener.
We put up a picture of Mike there.
We don't have a picture, do we?
No.
No, but we have a picture from his bio, from his Twitter bio.
Okay.
And by the way, for people who want to maybe comment on what Mike is saying about us, you can go to him on Twitter at MyDickerson. MyDickerson. Okay.
Right. So in the parts of the letter that he posts on Twitter, he says, in their 24th of the 7th, 2024 episode, the hosts advocate for a full ban on all abortions, blame DEI efforts at the Secret Service for the attempted assassination of President Trump. So, advocating for a position on a moral or political issue is unacceptable.
That's unacceptable. Yeah, you can't have no, we're not going to. Well, there's certain acceptable things you can say.
You can advocate for.
That you can advocate for on a moral ground. But there are things like anything to do with abortion, you're just not allowed be, unless you're full on, up to birth, you are evil, basically, according to these people. It's kind of funny, actually. It's almost funny, actually.
Like, do you think
abortion, like, even Bill Clinton, who I bet my Dickerson liked Bill Clinton, he talked about safe, legal, and rare.
But
rare.
also,
why would it need to be rare if it was such a wonderful thing,
But listen, in Mike Dickerson's world, are you not allowed to have
an opinion?
Apparently, honestly, not. I mean that in all. Maybe Mike Dickerson would come on the show. But
actually, I thought of that. I think that'd be great. So, my Dickerson, please do come on the show. We'd love to hear why it's not acceptable for people to feel strongly about the killing of innocents. Like, honestly, like defenseless babies.
Who was it?
People, like, there's people out there. Something that strikes me all the time is because I spend far too much time on Twitter. By the way, my Dickerson, I'm there all the time, and there's a lot of video. I'll be honest, I do look at a lot of videos. Yeah. I do look at a lot of videos of cats doing cute things, and I'm a person who, and quite often people will put up stuff about cats or a dog and something cruel being done to a dog or dog left on a highway. And I just think, I can't even look at the video. And I think my Dickerson, I think you probably would, you'd probably empathise with that, with any kind of cruelty to animals. Well, the most important animal on the whole planet is the human animal. And so I have a real problem with cruelty to the human animal.
I've been reminded of Louis C.K.,
brilliant.
His piece on this. Yeah. And he's a big pro-abortion person. But he said, like, why do pro-abortion people not understand the other side? He said, look, they think that's a baby, right? They think that thing in that woman's belly is a baby.
We think that's a baby.
Yeah, but this is Louis C.K. says they think it's a baby. And it's genuinely held belief that it's a baby, right? It's
quite factual too, but we're not going to even go there.
Well, there's
right?
a bit of science to back it up,
quite
right?
a bit of science to go there with, yeah.
Like, And as Louis C.K. says, what do you expect them to say or do if they believe that's a baby, and it's being and tens of thousands of them are being killed every day in America? What do you expect them to say? Do you expect them to be kind of, oh well,
It's
sure.
okay, whatever. Yeah, sure, whatever you're having yourself.
Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, we have
What would be the response that you're meant to have to something like that if
it's a genuinely held belief?
If it's a genuinely held belief, and I mean, does he not think we're very genuine? We are very genuine about this. We've spent quite a bit of time on it.
Yes.
Moving on, Philip.
But I mean, look, you could go to blames DEI efforts at the Secret Service for the attempted assassination of President Trump. Look.
Well, by the way,
it was the biggest failure in.
I would say to my Dickerson, I would say, Mike, what do you think happened? It's pretty bizarre, by the way. I think even the person who hates Trump the most on the planet Earth would say this was completely unacceptable. This kid saunters in, gets on a roof, like seriously. Yeah,
and a 5'4".
So we're trying to come up with explanations for how this could have happened.
And this is about a quote from the head of the Secret Service who said her priority was diversity. She didn't say her priority was making sure that
the president's safe,
that president doesn't have stub his toe or anything like that. No, it was about diversity. Anyway, like he then goes on. In their next episode, the host referred to abortion as murder. Yeah, well, whatever. Claim that gender transition is child abuse, and that doctors are cutting off the healthy limbs of little boys and girls.
Now, Mike, for a moment, we let's stop here for a moment, Mike. Really, Mike, are the breasts of the young people that are being cut off, of the young wee girls, have they got cancer? Is there cancer there? Is there a disease there? So there's nothing. Actually, Mike, really.
What's the
factual argument against what we just said there? Cutting off healthy limbs, so healthy.
A breast isn't a limb, man. How dare you?
Oh, okay, all right. I will accept that, but I don't think that's what he's saying, though.
Yes.
So cutting off parts of the bodies of young people that are completely healthy. If you want to get on the show again, Mike, please do, because we'd love to have you explain that to us.
And claiming that diversity efforts are making various institutions incompetent. He doesn't say what that story is about. That is a story that was in the LA Times or the Washington Free Beacon, quoting people from UCLA.
Who said that the people who are coming from the medical schools nowadays are incompetent.
Because of DEI.
And that
people will die.
And that they've seen a marked difference from before and after this DEI effort. That the kids that used to come through after going to medical school were pretty hot when they got into the hospital. Now the doctors who are dealing with them are pretty scared because they're super, super incompetent. So, we're basing this, so we would really welcome you to come on, because we have, we'd love to talk to you about the facts.
Well, actually, Mike Dickerson is not interested in facts, because then in the next one, this is really appalling, actually. We're laughing about this, but in their 28th or the 5th episode, the hosts claim that college students are, quote, the true enemy, close quotes, and that, quote, the true enemy is driving a Subaru, close quotes. Their guest later makes an offensive reference to non-Orthodox Jews as wishy-washy Jewish, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, is he actually suggesting that the people who went to Israel when Israel was at war and have come home and written a play only giving voice to Jewish people, right? No editorializing, no added drama, have an ounce of anti-Semitism or anti-Jewish feeling in their body. And, you notice the quotes are very tight there. The point we were making, there's all these ads on TV, or there used to be, about, remember there's one about anti-Semitism where the father and son are in a white pickup truck, and the son has written things like Hitler was right, and and the father is chastising him and telling him to go and apologize, and we made the point, look, the most vigorous and vicious anti-Semitism is in college campuses. It's not in the people who drive white pickup trucks. In fact, it's in the people who drive the Subarus. That is who's driving it. That's a fact, and it's a very interesting fact, actually. And if you're interested in combating anti-Semitism, which I'm sure you are, my Dickerson, I'm sure you're very interested in combating anti-Semitism, then you need to go to the Subaru drivers, not the white pickup truck drivers. And the person who talked about non-Orthodox Jews and Reform Jews and described some of them as wishy-washy, that is a Jewish person, Bethany Mandel, who was talking about their political opinions.
And by the way, again, my Dickerson is Bethany Mandel. Is she maybe not allowed? She's not allowed to have an opinion as a Jewish person to talk about other Jews. I'll tell you one thing: as Catholics now, I'll tell you, we have plenty to say about Catholics.
Yes.
So this is very
In fact,
interesting.
Jewish people could even say something about Catholics to us.
Oh, we have no problem with that. Yes, and they do.
And they do.
And yes, our Jewish friends do say a lot about our Catholic friends.
Yeah,
That's a whole other episode.
Because they have a lot to say. Because we have a lot to talk about. But
go on, Philip, to the LGBT. So
no. Actually, I want to go back to that because look, my Dickerson, we'd love to. We don't want to quote you out of context, but your letter is so long. In short, this is the one I particularly want to talk about. In their 12th of the 6th, 2024 episode, they denounce LGBTQ representation in media, saying regular people do not want to see two men kissing. They also denounce efforts to reduce the use of coal plants, blah blah blah. So, he makes a big thing about how he's sure that the people Hillel who are sponsoring and producing the UCLA event, how they would not want to be associated with anti-LGBTQ sentiment, etc., etc., etc. And I suppose, and Juliana Margulies actually, he did. They got a lot of support. Then they got some blowback. And actually, one of the tweets I loved about it was the one guy, Sir Bell, said, "They have a lot of source footage to work with, saying as your mates literally live streamed their atrocities on the day for you to conveniently ignore, you muppet." Right?
Nice.
So anyway, as I say, we Juliana Margulies really funny. She didn't take this to where it should have gone, but she started realizing there's something not right here. Where are the LGBTQ community protesting about October 7th? Where are they out marching? Where are they marching with their Jewish brothers and sisters? Where are BLM? Don't forget, BLM had celebrations of October 7th. They had posters with hang gliders on it because it was so clever. Remember that? Let's put that poster up there. So, as Juliana Margulies said on that podcast,
she had this amazing podcast. She was a guest on a podcast, and I think it was, I don't know what the date. Have we got the date for that film? Because I think it was very close to after October 7th, and she was on to talk, not to talk about October 7th. She was on to talk about a TV or whatever show that she was in or whatever. I think it might have been the morning show maybe, or whatever it was that she was to talk about. But anyway, then she was asked something about what was happening, and she just let rip. And it's really, we'll put a link up to that show, by the way, that podcast. It's almost worth listening to.
It was funny. It was November.
It was shortly afterwards. So here's the stuff she said. I mean, her quotes are unbelievable. This is Juliana Margulies, who there's the photograph of her there on the screen. I mean, people remember her so well. "I'm the first person to march for Black Lives Matter. When that happened to George Floyd, I put a black screen on my Instagram like I ran to support my black brothers and sisters," she said. "When LGBTQ people are being attacked, I run. I made a commercial for same-sex marriage with my husband in 2012. Like, I'm the first person to jump up when something is wrong, as I think most Jews are, because we have been persecuted from the beginning of time. Not just World War II, but literally from the beginning of time when we first lived in Israel, way before anybody else." And she has a load of other...
And then she talks about the student protesters.
Oh, yeah,
I like this. It's those kids who use gender-neutral pronouns.
Mr. Dickerson.
My Dickerson. Who are spewing the anti-Semitic hate and have no idea that they stepped foot in an Islamic country. These people who want us to call them they, them, or whatever they want them to call them, which I respectfully have made a point of doing. Be whatever you want to be. It's those people who will be the first people beheaded, and their heads will be played with like a soccer ball. Terrorists don't want women to have their rights, don't want LGBTQ rights. That is who you're supporting. And that was on a podcast, The Back Room with Andy Astroy. And, that is the thing. Where are the LGBTQ people? Where are BLM? We've got Gays for Gaza. That's where we're at.
Queers for Palestine.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Turkeys for Christmas.
Yes.
But
at least the turkeys are killed humanely.
Phil,
No, no.
By the way, I also want to quote another piece from Julia Margalis, which is brilliant because she really let rip in this podcast. But this other one where she talks about Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
She said, and she part of one of the interviews. I'm stunned by my industry. Can you imagine the WGA? What is the WGA?
Writers Guild of America.
Writers Guild of America not putting out a statement after George Floyd. She said, and yet when it was the Jews. By the way, all our great material on television is pretty much from the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that they stayed silent until they were pressured. She was so disgusted, by the way, the Jews were the ones that walked side by side with the blacks to fight for their rights. And now the black community isn't embracing us and saying, we stand with you the way you stood with us. Jews died for their cause. Where's the history lesson in that?
Yeah.
Who's teaching these kids?
You were saying Mississippi burning.
Yeah. Mississippi burning. I just said that recently, and actually there was a story about it recently. I would love to find where that was, because obviously it was some kind of anniversary of the Mississippi burning, and there was like a whole story about it. But they really downplayed the white guys who were killed.
Who were Jewish.
That was my point. Who were Jewish? You saw the photograph of them, and they and whoever I think it was the LA Times, but it was really dishonest reporting, because the really interesting thing was that those white boys, were Jewish who went down there to Mississippi and died.
Was it 3 people killed, 1 black and 2 Jewish, or more than that? But anyway, it was two Jewish kids.
I thought it was 2 Jewish kids and maybe 3 black kids, whatever. But it was that little group that went down there, and the fact that it was so highly represented by Jews. So
all those lawsuits that got voting rights, by the way, were all done by Jewish lawyers, and
she added, I just think these quotes are amazing, because the fact that the entire black community isn't standing with us, to me says they don't know, or they've been brainwashed to hate Jews. Here's what kills me. These kids are calling Jews colonialists. This is my favorite. Okay, because obviously there's a lot of favorites here. Here's what kills me. These kids are calling Jews colonialists. If you're going with that argument, kids, then get the F, not abbreviated, by the way, get the F out of America, because you were not here first. Native Americans were here first, and you owe them a big effing apology. Now, what's very interesting is she very quickly walked back the whole thing. Yeah. Basically walked back the whole thing because she apologized.
She was told she'll never work again.
And she basically said, I am horrified by the fact that statements I made on a recent podcast offended the black and LGBTQIA plus communities that I truly love and respect. I want to be 100% clear. Racism, homophobia, sexism, or any prejudice against anyone's personal beliefs or identity are abhorrent to me. Full stop.
By the way, what does that mean, I respect the community?
What community?
Do I respect every LGBTQIA person?
Maybe.
Is that what you're supposed to do? So it's like a get out of jail free card.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you may be the biggest shit. You could be, the biggest shit on the planet. But if you've got the if you've an L or a G or a B or a T or a Q
I can translate
or an
this.
IA,
No, I can translate this
plus.
for you, Phelim. Let me translate this for you. My name is Juliana Margalis. I really want to work again. I really want to work. I really want to be in a big show in Broadway, and I really, really want to be on television again. Please, I'm sorry, anyone who's offended anywhere, except for obviously white Irish Zionists or whatever. Everyone else, I'm so sorry, because I'd love to work. And I'd like to get invited to nice parties.
So, I mean, people, look, to sum this up,
In brief, Phelim.
In short.
As Mr. Dickerson says.
To quote my Dickerson, in short, the problem, I don't believe there's a rise in anti-Semitism. What happens is there's identity politics is now how younger people view the world. So LGBTQIA community, they're all great. If you're any of that, you're great. Black people, you're all great. White people, you're all bad. So we divided people by their race or their ethnic identity or whatever it was, and you ascribe
good, bad.
And
it's how prejudice works, by the way, and that's why prejudice is so popular. It's so simple to remember. It's like, who do I hate now? Oh, I know who I hate.
The white people.
I know. I hate the white people unless they're LGBTQIA 1 plus Two-Spirit.
Yes.
Don't forget Two-Spirit, Phelim.
I listen.
We're always talking about Two-Spirit.
I just have such a respect for that community.
Phelim is such a kind of a Two-Spirit type, aren't you, Phelim?
Yes.
He is. He just, I can see that in you. that kind of two-spirit thing that you have going on.
Whereas you're a 2 glasses of wine person.
More like a 2 glasses of wine person, yeah. I'm going to talk more about that, by the way, very soon. I'm going to be doing my comedy, by the way. More of my stand-up comedy, and I'm trying to think about what would work. And it's very rich, the environment out there for talking about, because you know the way I do like a glass of wine. It seems like somebody who's running for president really likes a glass of wine too. It's a huge big distinction, by the way, between the two presidential candidates.
Yes.
One who hasn't had a drink of, I think, in his whole life, and somebody who I think really likes to get into the gin and tonics.
Yes, I think it's a little.
And we have a friend. We have a friend who makes a gin and tonic for me. A very good friend in San Diego. You'll know who I'm talking about, film. And he says he reverses the normal mix in the cocktail of the gin and tonic. So what most people do is they have like a shot of gin and then 3 shots, or more than 3 shots, lots and lots and lots of shots of tonic water. His idea is it should be 75% gin and 25% tonic. And I have to say, I have had this drink at his home, and it's delightful. Absolutely delightful.
Yes.
Could start a whole thing.
Start a whole thing.
By the way, but I think somebody already got into that, by the way. There's a photograph of somebody I think who got into that, who is a presidential candidate. Okay, stop. So we're going to go over to our interview now with Jeff Gurner.
So Jeff played Zaki, who was a hero on October 7, rescued 100 people,
young people from the Nova Party.
From the Nova Party. He's now directing the staged reading at Princeton. There's no one else we'd like to be in charge of this. He's a wonderful guy. Let's go over to that interview that we did earlier. So we're joined now by Jeff Gurner, who did a wonderful job playing the character Zaki in our October 7 play in the run in New York. He's now taking the directorial reins and bringing the play to Princeton. Jeff has worked as an actor, director, producer, musician, writer, educator, voice actor, you name it. He's worked on and off Broadway, at regional theaters, international tours, numerous television shows. As a voice actor, he's recorded hundreds of commercials, dozens of video games, animated characters, and has quite an interesting career too in reading audiobooks. He's read. When you're listening to your book, you could be listening to Jeff. He's recorded over 200 titles, including multiple New York Times bestsellers. So welcome to the Alan Phelan Scoop, Jeff.
Happy to be here. It's good to see you guys again.
Good to see you.
Yeah, I think it's important to say that really Jeff really didn't have a career until he met us. I mean, that's, I think,
Yes.
and he could probably admit to that himself, actually.
I do. I owe everything to you.
That's good. Okay, that's the end of the interview.
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
isn't it?
No,
Thank you for coming on the show, Jeff.
It's funny, actually. I just remember when we first met Jeff. I mean, the whole cast in the New York show were just so amazing. We were just so lucky. We're so blessed.
Yeah.
Including yourself, Jeff. It was just what a beautiful experience we all had together.
Yeah.
Sweet. We were a family very quickly.
Yeah.
And to think that Anne didn't want the Zaki character in the play.
Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Yes. So now tell the truth now, Phelan, of what happened. Someone
wrote a first draft of the play,
excluding my favorite character from the whole experience of going to Israel, which was this one guy, Zaki from Patesh, who was humble and quiet and deeply religious and just a complete rock star who saved like almost 100 kids driving back and forth into the Nova Festival. And that's who you ended up playing, Jeff, which was how beautiful.
On the insistence, and then he was included in the play on the insistence of Anne McElhinney.
Yes.
And I have to say, it would have been a huge loss not to have him. There are a number of characters who are part of the hearts of the play, and Zaki is definitely one. Shani is another, probably Dor, maybe, but really Zaki and Shani are two. But anyway, so your character, Jeff, tell us what you thought when you heard about the play. Did you know anything about the play? Did you know anything about us?
I didn't know anything about the play. I was familiar with you guys and your work. And, I, like most people, I was just stuck smack in the middle of the constant barrage of the news cycle, and feeling completely helpless.
Yeah.
There was only so much you could do from here. And, I'm married and I have children and they're in school. Otherwise, I would have I would have been on a plane to Israel right away to do what I could. But in the aftermath of October 7th, there wasn't a lot other than financial support, moral support. But being over here, I think so many of us um, felt helpless and alone. And for me, having the opportunity to be part of the play was sort of a salve for me. It was a way to be involved in a way that I could. I could put my skills to use, my passion for Israel and for my Judaism and for the Jewish people to use in this creative way and help tell these stories. It was, extraordinary to me that by the time that the play fell in my lap, it was like October 7th happened, and by October 9th, Israel was somehow the bad guy.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And,
why,
of course, for American Jews, I think there's a great deal of helplessness that came along with watching how it seemed to unfold all over the world, but particularly here in the United States. I'm not naive. I'm old. But I was mystified by how quickly the tide turned. And so at any rate, the minute I was in Colorado visiting family and the call came asking if I was interested, and they could barely get the offer out before I said yes.
Yeah, very good.
that's
Very well.
fantastic.
We're glad you said.
And what's like? Just tell us. I mean, I've kind of talked a little bit about Zaki, but tell us about the character and what it meant to you to play him.
Well, it was special. I didn't even know how special it would turn out to be for me until once the play was up and running and I got to meet folks afterwards. I was brought up Reform Jewish, and I have some very Orthodox relatives and friends, but it wasn't the way that I was brought up. But I learned a lot about some of the conflict that happens in Israel between the Orthodox community and the rest of the Jewish community. And I think that Zaki, just aside from the fact that here was this man who was an Orthodox Jew who hadn't broken Shabbat in decades, but he has a line in the play where he says it's the most important thing, the holiest thing in all of Judaism. It's going to get to me.
Oh yeah, you're getting to me right now when you say that.
It is. He says is to save a life, and that supplanted not the importance of Shabbat, but in that moment what was necessary for him to do. And I think that for Zaki, what became clear to me in the course of telling his story in the play is that it was important to him to go and save lives where he could, but also to illustrate to people that the Orthodox Jewish community is not just this cloistered, closed off community, that the lives of their fellow Jews means something. And even if there are disagreements politically and socially in Israel about the burdens that Orthodox Jews may or may not have to carry, it was just important to him that he understood that his fellow Jews meant more to him than anything, and that in some way breaking Shabbat illustrated that point. It was about saving lives. It was about his people, his fellow Jews, being under attack. But in the end, or at least the way it's enumerated in the play, part of the point that he wants to make is that he wants people to maybe walk away from it understanding a little bit more about religious people in Israel.
Were you afraid? Was there any sense of being afraid to do the play in New York from a career perspective or even a personal safety perspective? I mean,
well, those are two pretty different questions. From a personal safety perspective, I think everybody was slightly concerned, having seen how things unfolded on college campuses and all over the streets of New York City and other major cities. I think there was some concern for our safety, but it was made very clear to us from the start that security measures would be in place, and they sure were. I mean,
Yeah.
we had armed security, we had a police presence,
Mm.
we had metal detectors. I never felt unsafe doing the job. As far as career, the entertainment industry can tend to be a bit of an echo chamber. And I don't want to get political about any of it, but I will say that it crossed my mind that being part of it, or, I tend to, I loathe social media. I think it's a dumpster fire, and I think it has its values, but I tend to not speak up. Um, and there came a point where I felt ashamed for not speaking up, not just because I don't not speak up because I'm worried about how it will affect my career, but I'd be lying if I said that I didn't ever engage in anything that might be a touchy subject online. Because I don't want to argue with people on social media.
Yes.
I think it's like banging your head against the wall.
It really is.
Yeah.
But also because there is a concern that you have that if you have an opinion about something happening in society, in the world, that doesn't necessarily fall in lockstep with a narrative, then it can be detrimental. But I think I quickly got past that with this because, again, to my thinking, this wasn't about politics left or right.
Yeah.
This was about an ally of our country, about the religion of which I'm a proud part, and about, to my thinking, and look, we could talk history. We can go to 1948, or we can go back to biblical history and hash all of that out. But it was my people, and I have family in Israel, and the attacks of that day, to my thinking, that there's no moral equivalency.
Mhm.
And it's what I saw happen after October 7th was a lot of equivocating and a lot of making excuses and a lot of, but doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What happened on that day is what happened on that day. And, if I was going to speak up about it and it meant damage to my career, there are priorities that I think, at least for me, that I had to consider. And to me, it was a no-brainer.
So before we get on to talking about Princeton, I just wanted to ask you one more question about New York. And there were so many special moments that I had and that Phelim had. I mean, so many weird, extraordinary things that happened. Obviously, Abby Poland being there, Hirsch Goldberg's aunt and cousin. Amazing. That was an amazing day. Then there was somebody. I think somebody came from what was that other town from the town where
Barry.
No, the other town.
Offakim.
Somebody came from Offakim. But there were all kinds of things happened. Did you have was there any moment that you'd like to share with us about what happened during the show? Did you meet anyone interesting? Did anything happen outside on the street?
Well, yeah, in line with what, as we were talking about getting the chance to play Zaki and what I was saying about after the show, there were always energetic people who really wanted to engage in conversation after the play, which is really exciting for me. It was a chance to have a conversation about the state of things. But for me personally, because I was playing Zaki and because he's an Orthodox Jew, so many audience members who were themselves Orthodox Jews would come and talk to me and say, thank you for representing us well. Tears in their eyes, gratefulness, and again, not because of my compelling performance, but because I think they appreciated seeing themselves represented on stage,
fairly,
and seeing it represented in a way where it wasn't about the internal conflict in Israel between different religious sects, but just on a day that united Israel, and to see themselves represented in a way that all that mattered was helping your fellow Jew.
Yeah.
So I got a great deal out of getting to meet people, whom I was helping to tell their story, and
Yeah.
in particular Zaki's.
I think it was interesting. I had that experience as well. A lot of people, I mean, I'm just thinking about Batia Ungar from Newsweek who came, and I think you got to meet Batia, who's Orthodox, and she basically, when she was like overwhelmed by the fact that she felt that the religion, the Jewish religion had, and it wasn't us, it was what people said to us, and that she felt that that the religious element of the story was beautifully done, and it's something, it meant an awful lot to me as well.
Yeah.
That every character had prayed, basically.
Yeah, I'm so glad I included Zaki from the start.
Yeah, right. Okay.
But no, actually, to be fair, and maybe this is, we're all part of this secular world now. Maybe me not including Zaki was part of this, but there was some pressure to take some of the religious elements out of the play, and I'm not going to name names, but it's like just little bits of pressure here and there, and it's like, why would you do that? Like, I mean, I feel I didn't have Zaki initially, well, for reasons, because there was another guy who rescued some people, and I felt people might be confused and all that. But also maybe I was part of the secular worldview, But the more we looked at the interviews we did, religion was a huge part of it. Yeah. Faith was a huge part of that day.
Yeah.
And of course it was a huge part of that day because they were killed because of their faith. But personal faith was a huge part of that day for everyone, even the non-religious people.
And particularly the non-religious people like Shani, who basically said,
Yeah.
I'm not a religious person, but I prayed, and it's like, yeah. And then she talks about, when we interviewed her, the actual Shani, when she came, we asked her what was the biggest emotion she felt when she was hiding for all those hours, hearing Hamas walk past, shoot on the ground, like where she, and we were like, what was the biggest emotion? I mean, I expected, terrified. The biggest emotion, she had no hesitation, was hope. It's like, what? Yeah. And that's faith. That's what faith. That's what prayer did for her. I think that's grace.
Yeah.
We want to move on to talk about Princeton. I think we need to talk about Princeton film.
Yes. Yes, the event. So So we brought you in now to direct the stage reading at Princeton. Had you any hesitation in doing and volunteering for that? Not volunteering. We're paying you an astronomical amount of money. Obviously,
huge money.
Obviously, the money was hugely
retirement.
attractive.
Oh yeah.
Retirement.
That's right. How we laughed.
By the way, Jeff is getting paid. Everyone's getting paid, and we would appreciate. If you can, anyone out there can help in any way, please go to October7theplay.com. Give what you can.
We're a 501c3. All donations are tax deductible. Okay.
So, enough of the fundraising, but it's true. Seriously, this is
fundraising part of it.
Fundraising is part of it.
Building fund.
It's the building fund. So tell us about any hesitation or and what do you hope to achieve now by going to Princeton, and what's your vision for the play?
Well, no hesitation. The play needs to carry on. As far as I'm concerned, this is a vitally important piece of theater. So no, I didn't hesitate. What was interesting to me is that this go around, after having done the full production with lights and sound and costumes and everybody off book and all of that, is that we're now going to present on these college campuses as a staged reading. And if people aren't familiar what that is, staged readings are usually done as part of the development of a play, so that it can be up on its feet, read by actors, book in hand, to get a better sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
We're beyond complete production, so we have a very clear sense of what the play is, how it works, and all of that. What I like about the fact that we're doing it just as a reading, without all the bells and whistles, without the costumes and the lights and the sound effects of, which we had a very involved production this summer off Broadway. When you're in the heat of battle, you heard it, you felt it, the theater rumbled.
Mm-hmm.
Not using any of that, though. As you guys will recall, I think you must have been there the one night where we had a technical glitch, and we lost our sound before the show started. And we did the show without the sound. It's not to say that it became a better or worse piece. It worked the way it was done. It was beautiful. But what I learned that night is that everything comes back to the words. It's a verbatim play.
Yeah.
And all that matters are these words, these people's true words. You went and you interviewed all of these people, and you listened to endless hours of transcripts, and you cultivated them until you had a play.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a really good point, actually, Jeff, because it was funny. We weren't in the theatre that night, but as you remember, we came at the beginning of every show and at the end of every show to talk to people. So we came at the end of the show, heard what had happened, heard about the sound and all that, and we were outside, and we had some folks in there that we were, hoping maybe that they would donate or whatever, and we were like, oh no, this is a complete disaster. People came out, and there were people there. I mean, there was a certain number of people who saw the show like 5 times, and some of those people came out, and we were like, oh God, we heard about the sound. And they're like, no, it was brilliant. It didn't. They were basically saying that it didn't ruin the effect at all, actually. And in fact,
it had a different effect.
Had a different effect because people, and as Phelim said before, we've done a verbatim play in the past, and with verbatim, people kind of lean in because they're like, oh my God, that's what she said. That's what oh my God, she said that, and it's so powerful, the words of the individual. So. I'm really excited for Princeton, and Phelim and I will both be there, by the way. So
good.
Oh, absolutely.
No, and I mean, it's at its bones. This play is about the storytelling.
Yeah.
These people's words, the experience that they had. So as an actor, it's incumbent upon the cast to tell these stories. And without all the explosions and the gunfire and all of those things that happened, then it really just becomes about these actors finding what they can in the words of these people who actually experienced it, and then telling the story, which for any piece of theater is always the most important component, the storytelling. But now, because we're doing it with just the words, these actors actually have a great gift in that they get to create what happened on that day in these people's words with just their words, and I'm excited to see how that all pans out.
And will you play Zaki in Princeton?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. No, you know best. You're the director. You know best. But okay.
We'll find a suitable replacement.
Okay.
And everyone, I'm sure will be absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
It's a very interesting. You talked about it's the stories and it's the words. I mean, I even found that at the start, of course, you're the star, and Jenny, who plays Shani, is the star, and the guy who plays Dor is the star because they've got the big roles and that. But like as the play went on, like Yair, I don't know how to pronounce it, Yair, who plays the guy who was wounded by the side. I mean, what he does is absolutely amazing. He goes from humor to tragedy to all everything, right? And I was, people were coming out at the beginning. People were saying, "Oh, my favorite character is Zaki or Jenny or Shani." Then people were coming out saying, "Yar." I mean, Yar is just an amazing, and even Michael Zilverman, right?
Oh my God!
Who's playing the guy who lost his daughter. I mean, and he has a small role, but it's just the way he grew into that role and the way the words just popped out. You're thinking, maybe he's the star of the show. So, and Rebecca playing this young, bratty child, which is a great role. And I mean, not to go through them all, but like the woman Lynn playing Michal Bilia, like what a story.
Yeah.
And what a little old lady, what an ending, and Ayelet in there going to all the museums, like amazing. There's all these characters that are great roles for actors.
But it's I think you mentioned it already. It's storytelling and these the story of what happens to these people. You don't need to add. I mean, it's so dramatic. At the rawest, it's so dramatic what happened to these people on the worst day of their lives. And then they told it to us, which was such a privilege to get to hear this and to record it. And for people to come and listen to it, it is fascinating. I mean, awful, fascinating, funny. I mean, you'll be surprised. People are surprised. There's humor.
Yeah.
There's poignancy. It's just got everything. But we're super excited about Princeton, and
Yes.
we should probably wrap up right now. By
Yes.
the way, but
Princeton on 24th of September.
We'll be there.
We'll be there.
But what we want to do,
I'm also going to be in UCLA on the 7th of October.
on the first anniversary.
The first anniversary.
Exciting.
So, exciting.
So what we want to do now is actually we want to end this interview by what we're going to do is we're going to play out with Zaki with Zaki, with Jeff Gurner, who we're talking to here. Jeff Gurner playing Zaki in the off-Broadway production of October 7th, the play, which is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful representation of a wonderful, wonderful man. So thank you so much, Jeff. Really, really appreciate it. And look forward to seeing you in Princeton.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I got a phone call from my eldest son about a couple who had been hiding for hours, Liraz and Asaf. And so I called them and told them to send me a location. But when I got there, I couldn't find them. So I texted them that I was there, and then I started doing donuts so that they would see the cloud of dust, recognize us, and come to the car. But this aroused suspicion among the security forces. 2 jeeps approached us, one from the army and one from the police. They aimed their weapons at us.
Get out of the car!
We did.
Who are you? What the hell are you doing?
When they understood who we were, they helped us look. Finally, we found the couple and we brought them to our home. David told me, now can we stay here, please? I said, no, they want me to find more people. I must help. We didn't even have weapons. Hashem protected us.
The young people he brought here, they were under terrible stress. They were terrified of every small sound. Every small sound made them jump. They were horrified. One of the young men, who my husband rescued, asked,
"That guy with the kippah? That's your husband?"
he couldn't believe that someone with a kippah, who observes Shabbat, would come to save them on a Saturday.
Yes, I broke Shabbat. But it's obvious. To save people. It's the most important thing in Judaism, to save a life. It's the most holy thing. And this was the first time that I had broken Shabbat in many, many years. So I hope that people will learn something about us religious people. We're not just some closed community who only cares about ourselves. Maybe now people will think differently about people like us.
So very much looking forward to Princeton.
We're going to put
in the notes. We'll have all of the information about Princeton. Before we end the show, by the way, there's a couple of stories we want to get to, and one of them is, tell me about, because I really don't know the details of this. Hunter Biden was here in town, Phelim, and
apparently he lives up in Malibu. You know,
Malibu
with his boyfriend,
with Kevin Morris. Okay, go on ahead then, Phelim. What's happening with Hunter Biden?
Well, he's pleading guilty in his Los Angeles tax fraud case, and they very conveniently, and it's like, by the way, don't believe the mainstream media when they tell you that it was all when he was in the throes of addiction and all. Much of this criminal behavior was when he claims to have been clean. He was cleaned. He cleaned up apparently in whatever it was, 2018, 2019, but he committed many of these crimes in 2020. So don't believe that nonsense. So I mean, that's all you need to know. Then you also need to know that the sentencing is being put off until after the election. So
interesting timing.
So he will be sentenced after the election, and he will be pardoned on the last day of Joe Biden's administration. And Kamala will be appalled by this, but there's nothing she can do. The president's hands are tied, and of course,
the president's hands are not tied. The president's her hands will be he will be the president until she's the president.
He'll be the president.
And by the way, she's not going to be the president. Potentially, we don't know who's going to become the president.
But so he will pardon Hunter on the 5th of January. And suddenly you'll find that all these liberals are saying, presidential immunity is a very important thing.
Yes.
Even though this is possibly a criminal act of pardoning your son who's committed criminal activity.
And I should have done a little bit more research, but perhaps I can ask the audience to do this for me, and you can write into the comments. Would this be the first time that a president, if this were to happen, which we think is very obvious, it will happen, would it be the first time that a president has ever pardoned a relative, a family member, let's say? And I wonder, it's an interesting one, but I think we were discussing this earlier, and I think you made a really good point, Phelim, which was that, it won't matter if it's the first time that a family member has been pardoned at the last minute. It won't matter even slightly, because the mainstream media are not going to report on it. They're not going to make anything of it. They're going to move right along to talk about something else.
As our friend Mark Paletta constantly writes about, all these smears about Justice Thomas, Ruth Bader Ginsburg did as bad and not more. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, so they're saying, Clarence Thomas accepted a gift from this guy who once owned part of this company that owned part of that company that has a case before the Supreme Court. Like 17 degrees of separation. Ruth Bader Ginsburg's husband argued cases in front of the Supreme Court in which she
did not
recuse herself, and he worked for companies that were arguing cases in front of the Supreme Court, and she did not recuse herself. So
we're coming to the end of the show. I do want you to get a chance, Philip, to tell me this homelessness story from Sacramento. But first of all, let's hear the music. Okay, Phelan, what is this story?
So it's a heartwarming story. Sacramento has a massive homelessness camp, which they created by allowing homeless people to come and camp because they pretended it was a constitutional right.
And it's called Camp Resolution.
Camp Resolution. So they were going to clear it up. Oh, actually, so Sacramento, they said rather than have camps all over in an ad hoc way, we'll devote this place to a homeless camp. So they gave them a place and said, you can camp here.
Right.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
And they signed a lease with a local non-profit. Fabulous. That was their first mistake. And it
was a self-governing community.
Oh, yes.
Oh, what could possibly go wrong?
Yes.
A self-governing community. Oh, God. Okay. Of homeless, mostly women. Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
A real recipe for absolute harmony.
Absolute harmony. So what happened, Phelan?
It became a centre for criminality, people dying. It was getting bigger and bigger. And it was... So the
by the way, can I just ask something, Phelan? I mean, to me, by the way, self-governed by residents. Do we not have laws? Are there
God bless you for your innocence.
We could do that, Phelan. Could we do kind of a self-governing thing around our house and just kind of start? I don't know. We could have people camping in the back, or I don't know. We could. Well, we don't have much space now, but do you know what I mean? Maybe you open a brewery. We could open a business
or
there.
decide we don't have to pay city taxes.
That's what we do. That would be the self-governing that I'd be very in favour of that.
Yes,
now.
yes.
This could be interesting. Okay, but anyway, go on. Tell me what happened.
So
yeah, 17 months.
But
the
community is represented by the Seattle Homeless Union. Yada yada. Anyway, and the city resolution. So they wanted to get people out of but the idea was the city would get people out of the homeless camp, which is not a homeless camp. Out of the camp were people who don't want homes, who keep refusing homes. And this is, of course, it's the LA Times writing this, and of course, you're leaving, and there's all these unfinished paragraphs. You're thinking, what is that? Are you saying this? Anyway, it's Andrea Henson, who's the executive director and legal counsel for Where Do We Go, a nonprofit that advocates against encampment sweeps in the Bay Area. She's been assisting the Seattle homeless unions and said the city's efforts were rebuffed because they weren't offering long-term solutions to help people out of homelessness. She accused the city of trying to, quote, destabilize the camp with
giving people homes,
offers of shelter.
Oh, you wouldn't want to do that. So that was destabilizing the camp because people were, yeah, I'm not clever enough to understand that now. Okay.
This is her quote. You're negotiating with a collective, not individuals.
Oh, I love that.
That's the whole idea of being part of a homeless union. It's to improve conditions. No, it's actually to make you not homeless. It's not to make your homeless situation, your tent ghetto, nicer. It's to get them out of the tents. But see, they don't want them out of the tents because her fundraising goes down the toilet then.
Correct.
Along with lots of other things. That's why the residents are devastated. They were promised permanent housing, not temporary shelter, not to go into a nighttime shelter. It's like, I don't like. Can you take someone out of a tent and put them in a house? I mean, or will it not be better to bring them through services on a thread? Anyway, residents of the homeless union have accused the city of sabotaging the agreement from the get-go. The city, and of course, there's all these sentences. You just wonder, I'd love to know what actually the truth behind this is. The city has secured permanent housing for just 2 of the camp's residents during its camp's 17-month run.
Wow. And how many people are in the encampment?
Well, they're 50, but I would say that means 100, right? So
they're not that successful at doing the thing that they're meant to be doing, getting people into permanent housing. They got 2 out of... so basically their success rate is 4%. Is that correct?
That's the city, but that's because they were being resisted by the Seattle Homeless Union.
By the collective.
Yes, by the collective. And in a recent phone interview, Marin, who is
part of the collective.
No, he's part of the city, pointed to an antagonistic approach by homeless union representatives that he said undermined cooperation with the city. He said if he floated a plan to relocate the camp to another site and build permanent supportive housing for residents on the leased land. But the union's representatives wouldn't go for it.
Because?
Again, then the reason we didn't go for it came down to the fact they don't trust the city and wanted officials to abide by the existing agreement they made to secure permanent housing for residents. That's what they were offering you. Move to a different place and we'll build you permanent housing. So, where did the camp residents go? Although the city offered everyone a Camp Resolution alternative shelter, relatively few accepted.
Yes, this is where the word homeless is always
a lie.
It's always a lie. It's not. People aren't homeless. They have chosen to not take up the homes that were offered. So it's a kind of a slightly different thing. It's like, they're making a choice.
Yeah.
But there are homes available.
According to city officials, 13 people transitioned to city shelters or motels, and one person returned to living with families. So the rest of them are on the streets now. Thanks, Homeless Union. Thanks, where will they go? Anyway, I just felt that was a great, it's a great piece. Almost, and the authors in the LA Times almost wrote it without realizing how great a
piece it was. Anyway, that's it for this week. Please continue to donate to our college campus tour. We really, really, really need the help, by the way. And all you've got to do is go to October7theplay.com, October7theplay.com, or send a check to, and the address is coming up on the screen now. We'd be so, so grateful. Don't forget, we're a 501c3. All donations are tax deductible. But we will be, we'll be keeping you informed as things heat up towards our tour. Yes. As I said, the 24th in Princeton and October 7th here in Los Angeles at UCLA, right in the heart of the... in both cases, we're bringing this right into the heart of where the worst possible anti-Semitism was witnessed by the whole country, by the whole world, by the way.
Yeah.
And so it's only right to bring the truth to those very places. Thank you so much for all of your help and all of your donations that have already come. But please, for the rest of you who've been thinking of doing it, this is the time.
This is the time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.